The red slash was missing. At Monday's client bid review, I watched my former directors present the hospital proposal with my name glowing on the screen, beneath key personnel, Lydia Mercer, CIH. "We fired her Friday," Vivian whispered to my husband, forgetting the conference microphone was live, but her credential still wins trust. Daniel's eyes moved toward the camera. He didn't warn her. My name remained attached while they praised their own compliance, their document controls, their culture of accountable judgment. Then Dr. Miriam Shaw, the client chair, noticed I had joined the call. "Ms. Mercer," she said, "are you currently employed by Hallowell Environmental, and did you authorize your credential to be used in this submission?" "I was terminated Friday at 3:17 p.m., I said. "I did not authorize this use of my name, signature, or credential. Effective immediately, I withdraw my consent." Daniel finally looked straight at me. He didn't look surprised, he looked hurt. That was the part I hadn't prepared for. The screen held 12 faces in 12 clean rectangles. Hospital facilities people, procurement staff, an outside construction manager, Vivian, Daniel, and Nolan Price from business development, who had the strained expression of a man trying to remember whether he had left a stove on. Dr. Shaw glanced down. She was in her 50s, silver hair cut close around her jaw, reading glasses hanging from a dark cord. "Thank you," she said. "Please remain available." Vivian leaned toward her camera. "Miriam, if I may clarify, we're going to take 10 minutes. The hospital rectangles disappeared one after another. Vivian stayed. This is a curable administrative issue," she said, no longer whispering. "Lydia, you know that." "I know what you submitted. It's a staffing designation. We can revise staffing." "You submitted a signed commitment letter." Nolan went pale enough for me to notice through a laptop camera. Daniel rubbed the corner of his mouth with his thumb. He did that when he was calculating backward from a mistake. Vivian said, "You should not be on this call." "The hospital invited me." "After you contacted them?" "No. The key person verification form went to the personal email address listed on my resume." Nolan closed his eyes. That was almost funny. Hallowell had spent 3 years bragging that its automated verification process prevented last-minute proposal problems. The system had done exactly what we told clients it would do. It had contacted the person whose name they used. Vivian muted herself. I could see her speaking to Daniel, one sharp finger pressed to the table between them. He answered without looking at her. Nolan left his chair and vanished. I reached for the red grease pencil that usually sat beside my keyboard. It wasn't there. For 14 years, I had used those pencils for everything that needed to be seen quickly in a crowded field file. Wrong cassette number, expired calibration sticker, a sample location that had shifted 6 feet because somebody discovered a steam pipe where the drawing showed empty wall. Ink could be overlooked. Red grease pencil looked physical, almost rude, and you had to deal with it. On Friday, Vivian had taken mine out of my hand. That morning, 6 air sampling pumps had been lined up on the stainless steel bench in the equipment room, their clear tubing curled beside them like sleeping snakes. I was checking each pump against the dry calibrator before the Monday crew mobilized to a hospital demolition project in Newark. 2.47, Ben Talbot called. "Run it again." Ben was 29, broad-shouldered, careful, and permanently offended by machines that required patience. It was 2.4930 seconds ago, and now it's 2.47. It has abandonment issues. Comfort it and run it again. He pressed the tubing more firmly onto the calibration adapter. Behind the glass wall, office staff crossed the corridor carrying coffee and rolled drawings. The equipment room had originally been a specimen lab back when Hallowell mostly did mold inspections and lead surveys. Daniel had redesigned it during our first expansion. He had measured every shelf himself, then ordered one bank of cabinets 6 inches too tall. For years, I had kept a ceramic frog on top of the crooked cabinet to stop him from pretending it wasn't crooked. At 9:12, Elena Ruiz appeared outside the glass and tapped 2 fingers against the door. You have a minute? If it's about the hospital proposal, I already sent my comments. It is, and I know. Elena's voice had the careful flatness she used around bad news. She was 34 and ran proposal control with the unnerving recall of someone who knew which version of a file everybody had lied about reading. She carried a blue binder against her ribs. Vivian wants the clean signature pages by 11. She'll get mine when the staffing table is fixed. Ben suddenly became fascinated by the pump tubing. Elena lowered her voice. She said the staffing table is an operations assumption, not a technical certification. The letter says I accept responsibility for the industrial hygiene plan. I know what it says. Then why are we talking? Because I have to document that I asked. She opened the binder. My comments were on top, thick red lines running through 3 rows. The proposed schedule assigned one field hygienist to oversee simultaneous containment work in 3 occupied buildings. It cut transmission electron microscopy from several verification points and replaced it with visual review. It also assumed lab turnaround times our laboratory partner had already said they couldn't guarantee. Beside one of my notes, someone had written in black ink, "Commercial Decision VP Approval." Who wrote that? I asked. Elena shifted the binder just enough that her thumb covered the initials. She didn't need to. I knew Daniel's handwriting. "Leave it with me," I said. She held on for half a second after I took it. "Keep your marked copy." "I always do." "I know." That should have told me how far the day had already moved without me. At 11, Daniel came into my office carrying 2 paper cups. He set one beside my keyboard and turned the cardboard sleeve so the seam faced away from my hand. After 11 years of marriage, he knew I picked at those seams until the cup went soft. "Peace offering?" I asked. "It's coffee." "You put cinnamon in it. That's still legally coffee in New Jersey." He sat across from me and loosened his tie. He looked tired, which had been his most persuasive expression for the last year. Tired meant he was trying. Tired meant the numbers were cruel, the clients unreasonable, his sister relentless. And I was the one place where he should not have to defend himself. I took the lid off the coffee. "You wrote commercial decision beside a professional staffing requirement. I approved a staffing model with my name under it. We won't actually run 3 containments simultaneously. Then don't bid them simultaneously. That's how the construction schedule is written. Then price enough coverage." He looked through the glass wall toward the rows of desks outside. "Do you know what our number looks like if we add 2 full-time field hygienists and keep all the microscopy you marked? Yes, we lose. Then we lose with an honest number." He gave a small laugh. "That's easy to say when you don't have to make payroll." It landed exactly where he meant it to. My division billed well, but Daniel handled cash, leases, insurance, and the new laboratory note. Whenever we argued about risk, he eventually brought the conversation to the 70 people whose direct deposits depended on him waking at 4 in the morning. "I know what payroll is," I said. "That's not what I meant." "It usually isn't." He pushed both hands through his hair. "Vivian needs your signed letter by noon. She needs a different plan by noon. Lyd. Dan." For 1 second, his mouth twitched. We had once been good at fighting without turning each other into enemies. He could make me laugh in the middle of an argument by repeating my name in my exact prosecutorial tone. I could pull him out of a spiral by asking whether civilization would survive the loss of 1 spreadsheet. This time, the twitch vanished. "Just get us through Monday," he said. "Then we can sit down and fix the mobilization plan before award." The client is using the proposal to decide whether we deserve the award. You think Vivian doesn't understand that? I think Vivian understands exactly which sentence she wants my credential attached to. He stood. "Sometimes I genuinely cannot tell whether you're protecting the company or punishing it for needing anything from you." The door closed softly behind him. At 2:40, I carried 6 calibrated pumps into the glass equipment room and found Vivian waiting beside the bench. She had removed her suit jacket and folded it over the back of a stool. Vivian never draped clothing. Even at family dinners, she folded her napkin before getting up to answer the door. Daniel stood near the cabinets. Beside him was Tasha Green from Human Resources, holding a gray folder. Ben and two other technicians were packing sampling cassettes into foam cases. Nobody spoke. I set the pumps down. Vivian pointed at the red grease pencil in my hand. "Your marking equipment cleared for Newark?" "Yes. Finish the row." The request was so ordinary that I obeyed. I checked the last calibration label, drew a short red line beside my initials, and replaced the cap. Vivian held out her hand. I thought she wanted the pump. She took the pencil instead and laid it beside the gray folder. "Effective today, Hallowell is eliminating your position as Vice President of Industrial Hygiene." Ben stopped winding a length of tubing. I looked at Daniel. "Eliminating it." "The technical function will be reorganized," Vivian said. "Into what?" "That's addressed in the separation materials. Who holds responsible charge?" "We have qualified resources." "Who?" Tasha said quietly, "Lydia, we can go through the package in the conference room." Vivian kept her gaze on me. "You declined to support an approved company strategy after repeated direction. We can't operate with separate veto points. You asked me to certify a plan I said was under-resourced. We asked you to distinguish technical judgment from personal authority." I looked at Daniel again. "How long have you known?" He folded his arms, then seemed to realize how that looked and dropped them. "We discussed options this week." "This week." "Lydia?" "What time did you decide?" Vivian answered for him. "That isn't relevant." The equipment room door opened behind me. Two people from accounting paused in the corridor. The glass walls did what glass walls do. They turned privacy into theater. I took off my badge and placed it on the bench. Daniel stepped forward. "You can collect personal items after people leave." "After people leave." "We thought it would be easier." "For whom?" His face tightened. Tasha led me to the conference room. The separation agreement offered 12 weeks of salary, temporary insurance reimbursement, and payment of part of my deferred bonus. In return, I had to release all employment claims, except a 2-year non-solicitation clause, and agree not to make statements that could harm Hallowell's client relationships. The signature line had already been flagged with a yellow tab. I read every page twice. At 3:17, the lights on the wall-mounted access panel blinked, and my badge stopped working. Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. He looked at it, then turned it face down. "You timed it before I signed," I said. "It's standard procedure." "I know, I wrote the procedure." That evening, he came home at 8:30 and found me sitting at the kitchen table with 3 cardboard boxes, sealed by blue painter's tape. He looked at them, set down his keys, and took off his wedding ring to wash his hands. He often did that. That night, I watched where he put it, beside the sink in the small white dish my mother had given us. "I can stay at the courtyard," he said. "I'm staying at Mara's apartment." "Mara's in Boston. That's why her apartment is available." He nodded as if approving a staffing solution. On Sunday afternoon, the hospital's automated email arrived. "Please confirm your availability as proposed key personnel." Attached was my signed letter. I opened it on Mara's dining table between a bowl of wooden fruit and a stack of unopened mail. The signature was mine. The document wasn't. My old clinic commitment letter had been stripped of its first page. A new hospital page sat above the signature block. The project name in the footer had been covered by a white rectangle. But whoever rebuilt it had missed the faint edge of a red grease pencil mark beside my signature. At 8:03 Monday morning, I clicked Join Review. Now Dr. Shaw's face returned to the screen. The procurement director appeared beside her, followed by the hospital's outside construction manager. Vivian had put her jacket back on. "Doctor." Shaw folded her hands. "Hallowell will have 5 business days to cure the staffing issue and provide the source file for every key person commitment." Vivian nodded once. "We can do that." Then Dr. Shaw looked at me. "Ms. Mercer, we'll send you a separate request for a factual statement." Daniel leaned close to his microphone. "Lydia," he said, "before you answer anything, you and I need to talk." For the first time since Friday, he sounded like my husband. That made him more dangerous, not less. Dr. Shaw's expression didn't change. "Any conversation between you and Ms. Mercer is outside this review, Mr. Hallowell. Our request will be limited to her employment status, the letter submitted under her name, and her availability for the proposed work." Daniel sat back. Understood. The hospital ended the call. For a moment, I was looking at my own reflection in the dark conference window behind Dr. Shaw's empty rectangle. Mara's apartment was quiet except for the old refrigerator making a soft knocking noise in the kitchen. A message appeared from Daniel. "Please don't submit anything until we talk. I'm coming over," I typed. "You don't have a key." 3 dots pulsed, stopped, then returned. I know. I closed the laptop and took a shower. It was an old tactic. When Daniel wanted an answer immediately, I found something that could not be hurried. Laundry, a grocery list. Once, during an argument about whether to accept a project with a contractor who had stiffed 2 vendors, I had polished a pair of boots while he paced around the bedroom. He called it passive-aggressive. I called it boot maintenance. When the buzzer sounded, I was still drying my hair. Daniel stood outside Mara's door holding a cardboard drink carrier and a leather portfolio. He had changed out of his suit jacket, but he was still wearing the same blue shirt from the bid review. A drop of coffee had dried near the second button. "You brought cinnamon," I said. I didn't know if that was helping or making things worse. "It's a beverage, legally." That earned half a smile. He stepped inside only after I moved away from the door. Mara's apartment was furnished like a place she expected to leave at any moment. Pale couch, rental lamps, framed prints still leaning against the wall 18 months after she moved in. Daniel glanced at the bowl of wooden fruit on the dining table. "What is that?" "Fruit. That pear has a seam. It's shy." He set the coffees down and looked at me as if the joke had opened a door he hadn't expected. Then he opened the portfolio. The agreement was 9 pages. Hallowell would engage me as an independent consultant for 30 days, beginning retroactively at 8 o'clock Monday morning. I would provide technical oversight during the hospital procurement and, if Hallowell received the award, assist with transition to a permanent CIH. The fee was generous enough to make my chest tighten. The release was on page 7. "You fired me Friday and want to hire me Monday," I said, "for 1 month. Retroactively. That can be changed. It needs to be changed to what actually happened." He pulled out a chair. "Can we sit?" "You can." He sat. I stayed by the table. "The hospital gave us 5 days," he said. "Vivian is bringing in Marcus Bell as the permanent lead. You know Marcus. He's qualified. He's qualified to run the program if he has the staff. We'll revise the staffing." "How much?" 2 additional field positions, full microscopy at the critical points you marked. Marcus reviewed your comments and agreed with most of them. Most. Lydia. I asked how much. All of it that matters. There was something uniquely exhausting about hearing my own professional judgment return in a man's voice as a compromise. "You could have revised it Friday." I tried. "You came into my office with coffee and asked me to sign." "I was trying to buy time." "You were trying to buy my name." His hand flattened over the agreement. "Do you want me to tell you I handled it badly?" I handled it badly. Vivian had Tasha prepare the separation package on Wednesday. I spent Thursday trying to stop it. "What happened Friday morning?" He looked down. "What happened, Dan?" She asked whether I was prepared to resign if she went through with it. And I have 32 people reporting through operations. We have the lab note. We have equipment leases. Walking out would not have put you back in your job. It would have told me who I was married to. He stared at the bowl of wooden fruit. "That's not fair." "No, the pear is not fair. This is accurate." He pushed back from the table and went to the window. Below us, a delivery van blocked half the street while a man in a red vest argued with someone through an open restaurant door. "Vivian thought you'd sign the package," he said. She thought once you got past being angry, you'd see the hospital project needed continuity. She thought 12 weeks of salary bought my silence and my credential. She didn't use those words. She whispered the words into a live microphone. He turned. She was panicking. She was proud of the decision until the client noticed me. You think I don't know that? For the first time, his voice rose. Then he lowered it immediately, which was worse. Daniel could be furious at the exact same volume he used to discuss parking validation. He touched the coffee stain on his shirt and looked at his finger. I should have told you, he said. Yes. I should have stopped the termination. Yes. I should have checked the final proposal file. I waited. He gave a humorless laugh. That one was for me. Did you know they were using the old letter? I knew Nolan was rebuilding the personnel appendix. I did not know he used that letter. Did you know my name was staying in the bid after I was fired? Silence moved between us. The refrigerator knocked twice. I knew Vivian planned to cure it after shortlist, he said. There it was. Not a confession dragged out by lawyers or discovered in a hidden file. My husband standing in our friend's temporary dining room, looking too tired to keep improving the sentence. You knew. I believed we'd bring you back as a consultant before the review. Did anyone ask me? I said I'd handle it. I looked at the signature tab on page 7. Yellow, like the tab in the termination agreement. You did. LYDIA'S sign for 30 days. Make them correct the record. Make them fix the plan. You don't have to forgive Vivian. You don't have to come back. And the release? We need protection from statements that could damage the bid. You already damaged the bid. The company is bigger than Vivian's mistake. It was your mistake, too. He flinched. I picked up the agreement and carried it to the kitchen counter. For a second, I wanted the red grease pencil so badly my hand actually searched for it. Instead, I found a black ballpoint in Mara's junk cup. On the first page, beside the retroactive start date, I wrote, false. Beside the clause confirming I had previously agreed to support the hospital project, I wrote, false. Beside the release, I wrote, no. I handed the agreement back. I'll respond truthfully to the hospital. I won't discuss anything outside what they ask. I won't interfere with Marcus. That's what I can give you. You know that isn't enough. It's more than you gave me. He closed the portfolio slowly. At the door, he paused with one hand on the knob. Mom wants you to call her. Did she know? His shoulders shifted beneath his shirt. Call her, he said. After he left, I poured both untouched coffees down the sink. The hospital's request arrived 20 minutes later. 5 numbered questions. Precise, almost bloodless. When had my employment ended? Had I signed the submitted commitment letter? For what project had I originally signed the source document? Had I agreed, verbally or in writing, to serve on the hospital engagement after termination? Was I available to do so now? I answered each question in one sentence. For the third, I needed the original clinic letter. My personal files were still in Hallowell's office. Tasha had emailed an inventory Sunday evening. Framed licenses, 2 pairs of field boots, prescription safety glasses, the ceramic frog, a navy rain jacket, 5 notebooks, and 1 box marked, Personal, Do Not Archive. The pickup window was Tuesday from 6 to 7, after the office closed. The message also said Daniel would supervise. I replied that I would come with Mara. Mara came home late Monday carrying a suitcase and a paper bag that smelled like roasted garlic. She was a forensic accountant whose clients usually discovered they needed her after somebody said, technically the money is still here. We had met during Hallowell's insurance audit 6 years earlier and remained friends despite her opinion that our expense controls were a folk tradition. She read the consulting agreement while eating noodles from the carton. Retroactive, she said. Yes, bold. That was my word. No, your word was false. You used it 3 times. It saved space. She turned to the release. This doesn't just cover the hospital bid. It covers deferred compensation, employment claims, defamation, interference, and any dispute arising from the marriage. I saw that. Did Daniel? He brought it. That wasn't my question. I sat across from her. He reads everything. Mara set down her fork. Competent people can become remarkably illiterate when a document solves a problem they're afraid to name. I slept on the couch and dreamed about pumps that would not hold flow. Tuesday evening, the Hollowell parking lot looked wrong with only 6 cars in it. Mara parked beside the loading dock, directly beneath a security camera. "You always park like you're expecting evidence," I said. "I usually am." Tasha met us at the side entrance. She wore a green cardigan instead of her usual blazer and had clipped her hair back with a silver barrette. "Daniel got pulled into a call with Marcus," she said. "I'll handle the pickup." She gave Mara a visitor badge. Mine had been placed inside the first box, the cord wound into a neat circle on top of my framed CIH certificate. The ceramic frog was wrapped in 2 sheets of brown paper. "They packed that better than my glasses," I said. Tasha's mouth moved, but she didn't smile. Daniel packed the frog. My 5 field notebooks were there. So were 2 coffee mugs, a drawer full of protein bars, and the tiny screwdriver set Ben had bought me after I used a butter knife to open a pump casing at 2 in the morning. The red grease pencil was missing. "I had one on the equipment bench Friday," I said. Tasha checked the inventory. It wasn't listed. It may have been treated as company property. "It cost $1.60, Mara said. Tasha looked at her. "Our inventory process doesn't use a value threshold." "I like you," Mara said. In the box marked, "Personal, do not archive," I found old continuing education certificates, professional association receipts, and copies of letters I had personally signed. The clinic commitment was not there. I checked again. "Tasha, where are the project-specific credential letters? Proposal records are company property. The signed originals were kept in my professional file. They were moved to document control during the reorganization. What date?" She looked toward the camera in the ceiling corner. "I don't have that information." The side door opened. Elena stepped in carrying the blue binder from Friday. She stopped when she saw Mara. "This is my witness," I said. "Great," Elena said. "I've always wanted one." Tasha stiffened. "Elena, are you working late?" "I'm correcting the credential register." She set the binder on the reception counter but kept one hand on it. "Hollowell received the hospital's source file request," she said. "The clinic letter is part of the response." "So I can get it from the hospital," I said. "If it's produced." Tasha's eyes sharpened. "What does that mean?" Elena opened the binder. Inside was a printed register showing each hospital proposal attachment, its source file, its editor, and the time of the final change. My commitment letter was listed as created Friday at 4:06 p.m., 49 minutes after my badge had been shut off. The source file column contained a path ending in Mercer_Lydia_clinic_2022_signed.pdf. "I did not bring this for Lydia," Elena said carefully. "I brought it because HR asked me to document which of her files were transferred out of her professional folder. Since Lydia is here, I am informing her that Hollowell has retained a document bearing her signature." Tasha read the line twice. "Who created the hospital version?" Elena turned the page. Nolan's employee ID appeared beside the first edit. Vivian's appeared beside final approval. Daniel's appeared beside technical approval at 5:42 p.m. My stomach went cold. "He said he didn't check the final proposal," I said. Elena looked at me, then at the boxes. "He may not have opened the attachment," she said. "The system records approval, not reading." It was an honest distinction. I hated her for making it. Tasha closed the binder. "Nobody removes proposal material tonight. I'm putting a hold on the full file and notifying outside employment counsel." Vivian's voice came from the corridor. "You will do no such thing until I understand why 2 former vendors and a stranger are standing in my reception area." She walked toward us in a charcoal suit. my red grease pencil tucked into the spiral binding of her notebook. Mara saw me see it. Vivian followed my eyes, pulled the pencil free, and looked down at it as if she had forgotten where it came from. Then she held it out to me. "This belongs to Lydia," she said. I took it. The paper wrapper was warm from her hand. "Now," Vivian said, "somebody's going to explain why my company is behaving as if we forged her signature." Elena rested both palms on the blue binder, "because you used it on a document she never signed." Vivian looked from Elena to Tasha, then to me. Her face didn't crumble. Her voice didn't rise. She became very still, the way competent people do when they finally understand the size of the problem and begin deciding who will carry it. Vivian looked at Nolan's employee ID on the register. Reusing an approved signature page is not forging a signature. It is when you attach it to a commitment Lydia never made, Elena said. "You are a proposal coordinator, not counsel." "No, I'm the person whose initials say this package was checked." "You didn't check it?" I flagged the source letter at 4:14. Nolan cleared the flag. Vivian opened the binder and found the entry. Her eyes moved across it once. "Where is Nolan?" "He left at 5, Tasha said. "Of course he did." That almost made Vivian sound human. Mara picked up one of my boxes. "We should go." Vivian closed the binder. "Lydia stays." "No," I said. "I need to speak with you privately. I'm not having a private conversation inside a building where my badge was disabled before you finished explaining why I was being fired." Tasha placed a hand on the binder. "Vivian, no one should discuss the bid until the records are preserved." "You are taking instructions from Mara Klein now?" Mara looked pleased that Vivian knew her name. "I'm taking instructions from our retention policy," Tasha said. "The hospital requested source documents. We have a duty to preserve the source documents. We are preserving them." "Then you won't object to a hold." Vivian's jaw shifted. She had appointed Tasha 18 months earlier after firing an HR director who treated email like a decorative medium. She had praised Tasha's nerve in 3 different management meetings. Now she was discovering the inconvenient thing about hiring people for their backbone. "Send the notice," Vivian said. "Limit it to hospital proposal records. The separation and credential files are related. They are separate personnel matters. They're related now." Vivian stared at her for 2 seconds too long. "Use your judgment," she said. It sounded gracious if you hadn't watched the effort it cost her. I lifted the second box. The ceramic frog shifted inside its brown paper. Vivian stepped closer. "You and Daniel spoke this morning." "Yes." "He offered a reasonable cure. He offered to make me retroactively responsible for a problem you created after firing me. We revised the technical plan." "Good." "We hired Marcus." "Good." "Then what do you want?" It was the first honest question she had asked me. My name off the submission, an accurate explanation to the hospital, my deferred compensation handled separately from my silence. "You want us to volunteer that a document control error was intentional." I held up the red pencil. "Nolan built the letter after my termination. You approved it. Daniel approved it." "Which part happened by accident?" Her eyes moved to the pencil, then back to me. "You were expected to remain available through transition." "By whom?" "The company. That isn't consent." For a moment I could see her calculating whether anger would help. She chose contempt instead. "You have always enjoyed being the last person in the room who can say no. And you enjoyed it when my no kept you out of trouble." Mara touched my elbow. We carried the boxes out through the side door. As it closed, I heard Vivian say Elena's name. Elena answered, "I'm not changing the register." The parking lot air smelled like wet concrete. Mara loaded the boxes into her trunk, then leaned against the car. "You understand that they're about to say you planned this." I didn't. That won't slow them down. It should slow Daniel down. Mara gave me a tired look. "You're still separating him from them." "He is separate from them. He approved the file. He may not have opened it." "Lydia." I heard myself. I put the red pencil in my coat pocket. The warmth from Vivian's hand was gone. By Wednesday morning, Hallowell's outside employment counsel had suspended my severance offer while the company investigated potential interference with an active procurement. The email was only 4 paragraphs long. It also reminded me that my deferred bonus remained subject to company performance and board approval. Mara read it over my shoulder. "They want you hungry," she said. "They want me reasonable." People with direct deposit have fascinating definitions of reasonable. My checking account could cover 4 months if I lived carefully and didn't pay for private health insurance. With insurance, it was closer to 10 weeks. The first estimate for continuing my coverage arrived before lunch and made 12 weeks of salary look less like severance and more like oxygen. I opened the consultant agreement again. The 3 places where I had written false seemed less decisive than they had at Mara's table. My phone rang once. Marcus Bell's name appeared. I answered. "Please tell me I'm not walking into a restraining order," he said. Marcus had spent 20 years doing industrial hygiene for pharmaceutical plants and hospitals. He wore bow ties to contaminated sites and carried a folding ruler because he didn't trust laser measurements near reflective containment sheeting. "You're not," I said. "At least not from me." "Vivian says you withdrew unexpectedly during the review. I withdrew consent to a letter I never signed." Silence. "That is a more specific sentence," he said. "They reused a clinic commitment page." "Did you agree to consult?" "No." "Did you tell them you were leaving?" "They fired me Friday." Another silence, longer this time. "I was told your position had been restructured as part of a planned transition. Was your start date planned before Monday?" Vivian contacted me Monday at 10:38. The bid review had begun at 8. Marcus exhaled. "I am qualified to take responsible charge going forward. I'm not qualified to have been responsible last Friday." "I know. I've required 2 additional hygienists and the microscopy you marked," Daniel told me. He didn't mention who marked it. That hurt in a small, clean place. Marcus lowered his voice. "I'm staying in the cure process. People will tell you that means I'm endorsing what happened. It means the hospital deserves a viable plan if it chooses them." "You don't owe me an explanation." "I owe my name an explanation." After we hung up, I deleted nothing and forwarded nothing. I wrote the time and substance of the conversation in a new notebook. The new notebook had a black cover. My old field books were yellow, company issued, numbered by year. Starting a clean one felt melodramatic until I needed somewhere to put the truth. Ruth Hallowell came to Mara's apartment that afternoon carrying a covered casserole dish and my navy rain jacket. She was 71, still drove a pickup with a cracked dashboard, and had started Hallowell Environmental with Vivian and Daniel's father in a rented garage. George had known remediation. Ruth had known invoices, insurance forms, and which clients paid only after being called at 7 in the morning. She held out the jacket. This was hanging behind Daniel's office door. "Thank you." "Are you going to make me stand in the hallway?" I let her in. She set the casserole on Mara's stove and inspected the apartment with the frank concern of someone evaluating temporary housing after a flood. "There's no decent chair," she said. "The couch is decent. The couch has no opinion of your spine." She sat at the dining table. I took the chair across from her. For years, Ruth had introduced me as the daughter she got without having to survive another labor. She taught me how to read cash flow statements and how to make George leave a job site before his blood sugar dropped. When he died, she held my hand through the entire funeral and Daniel's only twice. "Vivian told me about the call," she said. "Which version?" "The version where you embarrassed her in front of a client." "That sounds complete." Ruth's mouth pinched. "She also told me what Nolan did. And Daniel. He approved a package. He knew my name was still in it. He thought you'd help them through the review. That makes it better?" "No." She looked toward the window. "It makes it familiar." I waited. "George once listed my cousin's excavator on a county job after my cousin had sold it," she said. "Men were looser with paper then. You called the county and corrected it." Her eyes came back to mine. "You remember that story? You told it every time somebody complained about document control." I also didn't burn the company down over one bad attachment. I'm not burning anything down. You know what I mean. I withdrew my name. You did it in front of the client. The client asked me in front of the client. Ruth rubbed one thumb over the swollen knuckle of the other. Sign the 30-day agreement. Make them pay every dollar of your bonus. Then leave clean if you still want to leave. I didn't leave. She looked at me sharply. They fired me, I said. I know what the paperwork says. The paperwork is what happened. No, Lydia, what happened is Vivian got scared, Daniel got weak, and you planted your feet where everybody could break their toes against you. That's a family. That's a company. That's an excuse. It's an explanation. She pushed back from the table and walked to the stove. The casserole dish clicked as it cooled. You think dignity means never helping people who failed you, she said. I think dignity means I choose what my name promises. She wrapped both hands around the edge of the stove. George's name is on that building. So is yours. That contract keeps the laboratory open. Then they should bid it honestly. They are fixing the bid. After getting caught. Ruth turned. Do you want the bid fixed or do you want them punished? I had no answer quick enough to satisfy either of us. She nodded as if that proved something. At the door, I tried to hand her the empty casserole carrier she had brought beneath the hot dish. Keep it, she said. Ruth, keep all of it. She left without hugging me. The casserole was chicken with lemon and olives, the one she made when somebody was sick or grieving and she had no intention of asking which. Thursday brought Hallowell's formal cure response. Dr. Shaw sent it to me with a request to verify the section describing my departure. Hallowell had replaced me with Marcus, added the field positions, restored the laboratory analyses, and removed my credential from the current staffing chart. On the first page, Vivian called the signature issue an inadvertent use of a superseded commitment letter during a planned leadership transition. The chronology stated that I had expressed an intention to withdraw from the project before Friday and had joined Monday's review without notifying Hallowell. I read that sentence 3 times. Then I opened my yellow field notebook from the last full week of work. Thursday's page listed hospital staffing revisions, laboratory turnaround questions, and a Friday calibration meeting. Beneath them, in my handwriting, was a reminder to call Marcus about peer review after shortlist. I had been planning to do the job. At the bottom of the hospital's email, Dr. Shaw had added one more question. Can you provide contemporaneous evidence that your departure was not planned? I had my termination package. The access record would establish timing. My notebook showed work, but a determined person could call it preparation for transition. Daniel had the evidence. He had come to my office Friday and asked me to get them through Monday. I opened our message thread and searched backward. Coffee orders, equipment deliveries, a photo of the crooked cabinet with the ceramic frog wearing Daniel's tie. Nothing about the bid. He had said it in person. My phone buzzed with an email from Tasha. Preservation Review found an internal message responsive to the hospital's source file request. Council intends to produce it. Given the statement made about your planned departure, I believe you should see it first. A screenshot was attached. Friday, 10:26 a.m. Daniel to Vivian. Do we keep Lydia through Monday so the bid stays clean? If we terminate today, we cannot use her letter without getting her agreement. Vivian's reply came less than a minute later. Terminate today. You said you could handle her. At 10:31, Daniel answered, I can. The same morning, he brought cinnamon coffee into my office and asked me to trust him through Monday. My husband had already reduced me to a problem he could handle. At the bottom of Tasha's email was a calendar invitation for the hospital's final cure review. Friday, 2 p.m. Required attendees included Vivian, Daniel, Marcus, Tasha, and me. I printed the screenshot and placed it beside the yellow notebook, the termination agreement, and the hospital letter with my borrowed signature. The red grease pencil lay across the top. At 1:53 Friday afternoon, Daniel asked to enter the review early. I let the notification sit until Dr. Shaw opened the meeting herself. The hospital's procurement director was there, along with the outside construction manager and a woman from legal who introduced herself only as Ms. Chen. Vivian sat at Hallowell's main conference table. Daniel was beside her. Marcus and Tasha had joined from separate offices. Nolan was absent. Dr. Shaw began without small talk. "We are not conducting an employment investigation. We are determining whether Hallowell's proposal contains accurate representations on which the hospital can rely. Please answer only the question asked." Vivian nodded. "Understood." "Tasha, show us the source document." Tasha shared her screen. The clinic letter appeared first. My signature was at the bottom. A red diagonal slash crossed the page, faint in the scan but unmistakable. The clinic's name and address appeared in the footer. Above my signature, the consent language limited my availability to that specific engagement. Then Tasha opened the version submitted with the hospital bid. The first page had been replaced. The old footer had been covered. My signature remained. Dr. Shaw said, "Who prepared this version?" Tasha glanced down. Nolan Price assembled it. The document register shows he created the file at 4:06 Friday afternoon. Who approved it? Vivian Hallowell approved the personnel appendix. Daniel Hallowell approved the technical package. Vivian leaned forward. "Approval in our system confirms the package is ready for submission. It does not establish that each approver opened every attachment." "Did you open it?" Miss Chen asked. "I reviewed the personnel appendix in compiled form." "So yes. Did you know Ms. Mercer had been terminated?" "I authorized the restructuring." The construction manager removed his glasses and cleaned them with the edge of his tie. Dr. Shaw turned to Daniel. "Did you open the letter?" "No." His answer came quickly. "Did you know her name and credential remained in the proposal?" "I knew the personnel chart had not yet been revised." "Did you believe she had agreed to remain available?" "I believed I could reach an agreement with her." "Had you asked?" "Not at that point." "Then why did Hallowell represent that an agreement existed?" Daniel looked at the screenshot he had to know was coming. "We were under a deadline. I made a bad judgment about what could be cured after submission." Vivian interrupted. "Miriam, the current proposal no longer relies on Lydia. Marcus is fully qualified, and we have corrected every technical concern." Dr. Shaw looked at Marcus. "When were you first approached?" "Monday at 10:38 a.m. after our bid review began." "Yes. Did anyone tell you Ms. Mercer's departure was planned?" "Vivian said the company had begun a leadership transition." "Did she tell you Ms. Mercer had been terminated the prior business day?" "No." Vivian's face changed by less than an inch. Her chin lowered, one shoulder pulled back. It was the posture she used before asking a witness to reconsider an answer. Marcus continued before she could speak. "I can take responsibility for a future program. I cannot cure a statement about who was committed at submission. Those are different professional questions." I understood why Vivian had hired him. I also understood why she already regretted it. Dr. Shaw asked Tasha to display the internal messages. Daniel read his own words on the shared screen. "Do we keep Lydia through Monday so the bid stays clean? If we terminate today, we cannot use her letter without getting her agreement." Vivian's response appeared beneath it. "Terminate today. You said you could handle her." Dr. Shaw let the silence sit. Vivian finally said, "That exchange reflects an active discussion, not a final decision about staffing." "The termination was final," Ms. Chen said. "The re-engagement was still available." "To Ms. Mercer?" "To the company." Ms. Chen looked at her for a moment. "That is not the same thing." Vivian's hand closed around a silver pen. "No, it isn't." It surprised me. I had expected her to keep pushing until language itself gave up. Instead, she placed the pen on the table. "I authorized an aggressive decision under financial pressure," she said. "I believed Daniel could secure Lydia's short-term cooperation. When that did not occur, Nolan reused a prior letter to complete the package. I approved the appendix without addressing the consent problem. That was my failure." Daniel turned toward her. She didn't look at him. It was not remorse. It was triage. Vivian had found the narrowest version of the truth that might save the company, and she was willing to stand inside it. Dr. Shaw addressed me. Ms. Mercer, before Friday, did you state or imply that you intended to leave Hallowell or withdraw from this project? No. Were you working on the hospital submission? Yes, my notebook contains staffing comments, laboratory questions, and planned follow-up work. Why did you join Monday's review? Your verification email asked me to confirm my availability. The attached letter carried my signature. I joined because I needed to know how it was being used. Did you contact anyone at the hospital before joining? No. Did you intend to disrupt Hallowell's bid? I looked at Daniel. He was watching me with the same hurt expression he had worn Monday, except now I understood it. He had believed, all the way until I spoke, that some private part of our marriage would keep me manageable. He thought I would see his fear, the laboratory note, the people on payroll, and quietly lend him my name one more time. I intended to correct a statement made about me, I said. I withdrew only what belonged to me to withdraw. Dr. Shaw closed her folder. The hospital allowed a cure because replacing a key person can be an ordinary procurement issue. This review established that the problem was not an unexpected staffing change. Hallowell knowingly submitted a commitment it did not have, then described the resulting departure as planned. Vivian said, "The current team is complete. I believe Marcus is qualified. That does not resolve whether we can rely on the representations surrounding him." There it was, no shouting, no dramatic threat, just the sound of confidence leaving a room. "The hospital will issue its decision through procurement," Dr. Shaw said. "Ms. Mercer, thank you. You may disconnect." I picked up the red pencil and drew a line across the hospital version of the letter, not over my signature, through the sentence that said I had consented. At 4:41, the hospital removed Hallowell from the final round. Daniel came to Mara's apartment that evening without coffee or paperwork. I met him downstairs. Rain had started, fine enough to float beneath the awning. He was wearing the navy coat I had given him 5 years earlier. One cuff had come loose. "Vivian put Nolan on leave," he said. That was fast. "She wants me to take responsibility for proposal approval." "You did approve it." "I know." We stood beside Mara's building while water gathered along the curb. "The bank was already asking questions about the lab," he said. "If we landed the hospital, we had 18 months of baseline volume. If we didn't," I knew the numbers. I kept thinking I could solve one piece at a time. Get the bid submitted, get you through Monday, fix the staffing, put a consulting agreement in front of you. "Handle me." His eyes closed briefly. I hated that word when she used it. "You answered her." "I thought the alternative was losing everything at once. So you chose what to lose first." The rain darkened his shoulders. He looked up at Mara's windows. "Are you coming home?" "No." "Not tonight?" "Not to the marriage we had last Friday." He swallowed. "Is there another version?" "I don't know." It was the kindest, honest answer I had left. Hallowell did not disappear. On Monday morning, crews still loaded containment poles into vans. The laboratory still ran samples. Payroll cleared. Consequences arrived in envelopes and carefully scheduled meetings. The hospital's decision prompted 2 existing clients to request fresh confirmations from every professional listed on Hallowell's active projects. One renewed its contract for only 6 months instead of 3 years. The other moved final clearance testing to an independent firm. Hallowell's professional liability insurer ordered a review of its proposal controls and raised the renewal premium. Vivian retained her title, but Ruth and the other shareholders removed her authority to approve submissions alone. Daniel stayed in operations while an outside compliance manager took over technical representations. Nolan resigned before Hallowell completed its internal review. His farewell email thanked everyone for the shared journey and did not mention my signature. Tasha kept her job. Elena did not. Vivian called it a reduction in proposal staffing after the hospital loss. Elena called me from the parking lot with her desk plant buckled into the passenger seat. "I have been professionally reorganized," she said. "I'm sorry." "I'm not." I hated that plant. The plant was a pothos with 6-foot vines. She kept it. My own money tightened exactly as Mara had predicted. Hallowell refused severance while its interference claim remained open, and private insurance consumed nearly a month's living expenses at a time. I took short field assignments for 2 consulting firms that had once introduced me as Hallowell's vice president. On my first assignment, the project manager handed me a box of sampling cassettes and said, "You're fine doing technician coverage, right?" "I'm fine doing the work you're paying me to do." I spent 10 hours checking negative pressure in a pharmaceutical containment area while a former peer approved my field sheets. The work was honest. My pride was less cooperative. Daniel and I listed the house. He packed the kitchen. I packed the books and the framed licenses that had once hung in my Hallowell office. We argued about the white dish beside the sink because neither of us remembered whose mother had actually given it to us. "Yours," he said. "Mine gave us the blue one." He checked a photograph from our wedding gifts. "Mine," he admitted. He wrapped it in newspaper and placed his ring inside before closing the box. The sale left each of us enough to start over, not enough to feel rewarded. I rented a duplex with radiators that knocked louder than Mara's refrigerator. Daniel moved into an apartment near Hallowell so he could walk to work. Ruth stopped calling me. Once, I saw her pick up outside Hallowell while I waited at the traffic light. She was carrying file boxes through the side entrance herself. She looked smaller than I remembered and just as stubborn. I almost turned into the lot. The light changed. 8 weeks of negotiation ended with Hallowell paying the deferred compensation it could document, withdrawing the interference accusation, and shortening the non-solicitation clause to 6 months. I released the employment claims. I did not sign any statement saying the hospital incident had been a misunderstanding. Mara read the final agreement and tapped the payment line. "This is less than you deserved." It's more than they wanted to pay. That is the foundation of civilization. I used part of it to buy 2 refurbished sampling pumps, a used dry calibrator, insurance, and a folding table that shook if anyone leaned on the left side. Celia Brooks, who managed our laboratory partner, let me use an empty equipment bay in her building 3 mornings a week. She had been the one telling Hallowell its turnaround promises were impossible. When I asked whether she would work with me directly, she said, "Only if your proposals stop pretending midnight is a business strategy." Elena joined 2 months later. She brought the pothos, 3 binders of blank templates she had built herself, and a label maker she guarded like a firearm. We did not call ourselves a firm at first. We were 3 women sharing invoices, borrowed space, and an alarming quantity of takeout soup. I inspected containment. Celia handled laboratory coordination. Elena built a document control process in which every proposed key person received the final commitment page directly and confirmed it through an individual link. "Seems excessive," I told her. She looked at me over her monitor. "I wanted to hear you say it." The hospital released a smaller solicitation for independent air monitoring and hazardous material verification. It was separate from the renovation management contract and open to any qualified team. Dr. Shaw did not invite me to bid. She did not need to. Elena found the notice at 6:21 morning and arrived at the equipment bay, with printed copies still warm. We priced the hours we actually intended to work. We included every laboratory analysis Celia required. Our number was not the lowest. 6 weeks later, the award email arrived while I was standing beside the folding table, trying to make Pump 3 hold 2.5 liters per minute. Elena read the first sentence, sat down, and said, "Oh." Celia took the phone from her. "Well," she said, "now midnight is officially a business strategy." I laughed hard enough to lose the tubing adapter beneath a cabinet. The award covered one portion of the project. It would pay us, replace the folding table, and keep us busy. It would not make anyone rich or repair what had happened. It was enough to begin. Before the first hospital walkthrough, I calibrated 6 pumps in Celia's borrowed bay. The cases were scuffed, the tubing was new, and Elena had placed a commitment confirmation beside each person's field packet. Pump 3 drifted to 2.47. "It has abandonment issues," Elena said. I looked at her. "Ben told me." I adjusted the flow and ran it again. When the reading held, I found an outdated cassette label, drew one clean red line through it, and wrote the correct date beneath my initials. Then I put the grease pencil back in my own pocket.